like to start by paying my respects to the local language group on which we hold this forum, the Turrbal and the Yagara people, and to ask that the elders, past and present, bless us today and guide us home safely, I think. Now, yes, as Annette was saying, my name is Kyle Morrison, Artistic Director of Yiriyarka Theatre Company, and I'm a descendant of 3 different Aboriginal language groups in Western Australia, the Goreng Noongar, the Badimaya Yamaji and Wadjuri Yamaji, but I've also got Afghan, Irish and English heritage as well. Now, I've been performing most of my career. I come from a performance background, and I want to share a little story with you about a time that when we were touring a play up into the Pilbara, up into a town called Newman, which locally is known as Nyabru town. The word Nyabru is a word that you give to somebody whose name has been retired. When somebody passes away in that town, so say their name is John, you cannot say John in that town ever again because it's been retired, and you let the dead sleep and you let the spirits rest. It's called Nyabru town because in about the 50s there were 2 major creation spirits. There was Mount Wauback and Mount Newman that were the spirits of the land that created the country, that was the religion, that was the purpose of the people. And when one of those mountains was totally cut from the land, so did the law go, so did the spirits, so did the impetus to actually really connect with the country. So for many miles around, and lots of language groups call it Nyabru town, which is a very sad thing. And when you're living in this town, the spirit is dead. It's a very sad town. I lived there for a few years. My dad was helping coordinate the community development programs. Anyway, we were touring with the Yiriyarka play called Warraloo. Is that you? Warraloo is the name for the snake up in the Pilbara, and it was a show that was about relationships between animals and the country, and it was just, this is one of my favourite moments in theatre for throughout my whole career. Is we were doing the show, and because I'd spent some time in Newman, I got a bit of an understanding of some of the language and some of the talk, and then the nuances and the idiosyncrasies of the people there. I was doing a show, and in this production, the goanna is hiding its eggs inside the anthill, and I was playing the sneaky little snake who would sneak around and try and steal the eggs. And at one point, the goanna would go, "Warraloo, is that you trying to steal my eggs?" And every time I'd jump out and go, "No, that's not me," and wait for the kids to either dog me in or not. And on this occasion, I thought, because we're in Māori country, and because we have Māori audience in the second row, and there were these 2 little beautiful Māori girls in the second row, and instead of saying the original lines, I changed the script. The writer would probably kill me for that, but I jumped out from behind this rock, and I looked these 2 little girls in the eye, and I said, "Here are Bucky," which is their local language for "no, it wasn't me." And instantly, these 2 girls just burst out laughing. And it was the only 2 people that were laughing in the audience, and it was the most beautiful sound. It was an honest laugh that came from connection to the character, from the connection to the story, and a connection to their own country. And they laughed for about 3 seconds, and it was one of the most beautiful 3 seconds I've ever had in theatre. And that summed up what theatre was for me. That connection between the stories and the people. I'm loath to say, I'm looking to develop an audience or an audience member, because to me that's a number, that's a bum on a seat, that's a statistic. What I'm trying to connect to is the community. I'm trying to talk to people. I don't want statistics and stuff like that, because when you're trying to connect to a certain audience demographic, or you're trying to connect to an audience group, that's a community of people. And when you get to give a story that is really rooted in their philosophy, in their law, then you're making that real connection, and you're engaging, and you're activating that audience. And from that moment on, those 2 girls were with us the whole way. They had this little twinkle in their eye. They got really embarrassed because they were shy girls, and they had laughed unexpectedly, and all the other kids in the class were looking at them like that was a bit weird. But these girls, they were connected. They were there. They were with us. They then followed the stories. They were then nodding, and when they heard the words of their own language group, their animals, their stories, their songs, it just really was the most beautiful point in my theatrical career. I think I was 19 at the time, and from that moment on, I knew what the power of theatre is, and what the, what it can do to engage, what it can do to really connect to people and their own stories and their voices. So that's what I wanted to talk about, is that community connection. Somebody else mentioned it a little bit earlier. I think it was in the earlier presentation, but it's that really connection to community. It's the community that you want into your theatre. It's the community that you want to perform to. And we at Yirra Yaakin, we take our community connection really seriously. And what we've found is we now that we've started to expand on that. What we do is we will go out a month before the show, and we will go and talk to elders. We'll go and talk to community groups. We'll go and talk to the people on the land and say, this is what we're coming to do. Is this appropriate? Is this going to work? And then we're making that connection with the leaders of the community. And then we're talking to the health service. We're talking to people, and it really does bring in people to get an idea of our show. So we're not coming in as strangers, not coming in just to do a show and piss off. We're actually there to actively engage. We're actually there to really have a conversation with people. So the pre-tours are something that we really look to make sure that we get right. We're talking to the right people. And the community engagement is also looking at how we get our audiences that are unfamiliar with theatre into the theatre to hear their own stories. Because it's every time that I drag some of the audience into the shows and they come and see a Yirra Yaakin show, they walk out going, well, that was fabulous. I want to see that again. And you go, well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to bloody tell you. You've got to just get in there, and sometimes you just got to drag them kicking and screaming. And that's where, trying to develop those new audiences, trying to give a sense of connection and understanding and tolerance. I really truly believe that if I can encourage the Indigenous community to go to see more of our shows and to more Indigenous shows, maybe there's an avenue there for them to go to see more of the shows that are sort of aimed at the middle class or not aimed at that community, at that target community. So it's about connection for me. If we can get that connection between the Aboriginal audiences or the Aboriginal community and the wider community, I think there's a level of understanding there. And if I can get the middle class and the people that don't know much about Aboriginal culture onto our seats and into our engagement, then there's an understanding there as well. We're sharing knowledge, we're sharing understanding of each other's cultures, how we work and how we talk. And that's, basically a lot of what we do. And in saying that, we also, to get that connection, we also change our script, basically everywhere we go. To the script that we send to, say, the Goldfields, where the Wongai language is the dominant language, we will change the script to make sure that it's accessible, that people are relating to it. And we'll change the script when we go to the Pilbara or the Midwest, or it's really being flexible and really finding that connection between the people. Because I really found just that one moment, that 3 seconds, while I was performing in Yuggera that I was impassioned. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what we needed to do, and the power of theatre in that regard. So. We're building partnerships to actually get theatre out there. One of our partnerships is with government. So we take a show out about road safety, and that's we have workshop packages. But what we're doing is we're helping to tell a community message. But what I'm ambitiously doing or ideally doing is actually introducing professional theatre to these places, because they're free to the community. We've got evidence of shows that were set up under a tree out in Warburton, and performed there with a professional cast. And it's about going in there and actually making things accessible and relatable. I suppose I want to wrap it up a little bit here, but there's something that I wrote down, and it's the only thing that I wrote down, because there's just all dot points here. But we take our community engagement seriously. We represent the voice of Indigenous people and their communities. We must get it right. Well, we have to get it right, really. These relationships are lifelong and can't be messed with. Our creative freedom and expression must always take who we speak for and how we speak into account. We're a community, not a product. So, in saying that, I want to leave this question with everybody, and I'm sure it's a question that, as theatre makers, as artists, that we will talk about and throw around a lot. But I want to pose this to the forum. Who do we speak for? Thank you.